Good morning and welcome to Quasar Market Live. Howard Greenberg here, your host, and I am so happy to, like every morning, to have my best friend Steven Big Beat on Wall Street, or here to talk about what's going on in the markets today. How you doing today, Steve?
I'm good, Howard. I think a lot of people out there are a little still nervous. It's September. I've been saying it for a while, Hondo. I'm not scared. Let this market do its thing. The low volume, high volatility. It's September. I'm not scared. In fact, I probably will start to look to buy a little bit here today. Again, today we are building some bases. I think I see it right now on the screens. We're building a base. I'm just not scared, and I think the world's not that as bad as everybody says it is.
It's funny you say that. I just saw come across the screen Market Watch article saying the same thing. Corporate
Uh,
bonds yesterday hit an all-time high. About 26.65 billion was raised yesterday. So I think
yeah,
we're
it's very
seeing.
simple. Yeah, it's very simple. It's a flight to safety for some people looking for high yield bonds. They want to look. The money's coming out. We know this out of the government bonds. I think the 10-year now sitting here at 3.73%. Pretty much did something yesterday that we haven't seen only twice in the last 2 years, and the yield curve has gone back normal. It was inverted for a long time. If you don't know what that means the farther out, the rate should be higher because you're putting money in for longer terms. For longer term, in the past, they've been down below the short term because the banks have been trying to raise money, government's been trying to raise money, but when you do that flight to safety, it's also a flight to safety in the bond market too. And corporate bonds pay better on shorter rates, so on time limits. So hey, you know what? It makes sense to me.
Yeah, and like you said, what we've seen is a lot of upgrades on the corporate bond index and things like that. So it gives a little bit more, strength to the market, like you said, gives a little bit more conviction to those traders, investors that these corporate bonds are being moved up, from B's to, A to
Well,
double A.
I think the question here has to be asked if, in the corporate bond market, is it high yield junk bonds, right? HYG. When you look at those things, are people have a more of a risk appetite when it comes to corporates? I know that what's hot in the past right now has been munis, which are municipals. If you pull up a daily chart there, Hondo, I think you get a much clearer picture of what I'm talking about here. Right. So you see an uptrend, you see people moving to that, and I still think that you're going to see push up a little bit here. That means that people have a risk appetite over the last few months. But you also saw, like everything else, when you see high yield bonds, you see corporate bonds, you see muni bonds all slipping like this, and you also see the stock market slipping. You also see metals slipping. Money has to go somewhere. And I think the one place that we have been looking for has been commodities outside of oil. Oil has been sliding here under $70 a barrel. But guess what's coming in September? Being a boy from the Midwest and Southern Illinois, I can tell you it's corn, it's wheat, it's hogs, it's cattle. We're going to be feeding, right? And so I think that's where a lot of the money, we could see a bull run here in the commodity sector, especially if the dollar continues to weaken. We saw it last few weeks on that yen carry trade. All of these things matter, right? When you see the yen carry trade blowing up, guess what? The yen's pushing higher. Gosh, yesterday was up 1%. It's been a long time since we've seen that run, right? Because of all of that, this is what you're seeing in the market, and that's why stocks are falling. It's not because the boogeyman is in the markets. It's not because of all the other things. Yes, it's being exacerbated by zero DTEs, and that's nutty. That's retail. That'll go away. I think one thing in yours, and I'll pass this back to you, and I think this is right up your alley, is that as the dollar trade continues, crypto is still holding. You're seeing retail selling, but guess who's buying? Institutions. BlackRock is not selling.
Right, absolutely. You just hit on two things for me. Number one, it's funny. You and I are in a bunch of different message boards together and things with some of our friends and cohorts, and everybody now all of a sudden talking about, oh, I wish I knew about the yen carry trade. I would have done that. Well, you've just given insight into what I think is starting to replace that, because the amount of money moving into that corporate bonds, that isn't retail. that is institutional. So they're looking to replace that carry trade you were just talking about. That's carried a lot of these, bond traders for the last year and a half, 2 years, right? And now they have to go and find different avenues. So I think corporate bonds might be an answer there. Not to say that I'm not the crypto expert, but I just threw my bond knowledge out there. But on the crypto side, yeah, I've been watching Bitcoin, and as you say with the stock market, I'm not scared. We are still firmly in the this bull flag that I see here. We're
Yeah.
range trading. I'm looking today to pick up, Bitcoin. I put in 55 as a spot
Ooh.
today. I think we might tick down into that. It looks to me like we want to get one of those bad wicks today. I think today looks like one of those days you could see a little capitulation here in the US, on the crypto side. So I do think we might see some outflows from the ETFs and stuff here. We'll see what happens right at 9:30 if they when they do their rebalancing.
Let me ask this question, Howard. I mean, the truth of the matter is, you're just saying rebalancing. So, what percentage of the market is ETFs right now, and as a holding of crypto?
Oh, it's a huge part. I mean, BlackRock itself owns somewhere in the vicinity of 30,000 Bitcoin. You know what I mean?
Woo.
Or excuse me, 300,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah,
They're
right.
they're they're at billions of dollars in Bitcoin. They're over 100, um, and that's yeah, they hold a huge amount. The ETFs, that's a great. I'll get that stat for us in a few seconds here, but it is insane if you look at the amount of money that are in these ETFs, and not just here in the U.S. but around the world. There's huge ETFs in Switzerland. There's ones that have launched in Brazil that are getting traction. So these aren't small. BlackRock, after MicroStrategy, is probably the second largest institutional holder of Bitcoin right now.
Yeah, yeah, agreed, agreed. So this morning, let's not get too political, but Dr. Lightman, the guy that says the 12 keys to the White House, is now saying that and has been predicting since 1984, presidential elections has not missed yet, is now saying that Kamala Harris is going to win the election. And to me, I don't really care who wins the election. I care more about how my portfolio is positioned. And I think that the case there is electric vehicles. But one thing she's saying here is 28% cap gains tax rate is what she's proposing. If that's the case, it would have to pass the House and the Senate first, right? As we know, but do you think that's going to have a big effect on the crypto markets with cap gains tax?
I think we'll have the same effect that you see in the stock market now. We've gone away from the days of those crypto degens, as I call them, and they're trading on the fringes still. Those folks are still out there. There are thousands of tokens that have volume on them and on some of the foreign exchanges. But here in the U.S., we've seen a real big move away from it. When they shut down KuCoin as basic access to the U.S. and some of the others, they took that leverage and the small tokens out of play, and you're not seeing that as much. And to answer your question, they have $20 billion of Bitcoin.
Mm.
That's how much just BlackRock's holding, $20 billion worth as of
20
today.
billion, and right now I think it's what 1 trillion, right, is what the market cap is of Bitcoin. Is that correct?
Yeah, right around that. Let's see.
So if they have 20 billion, they literally alone,
Yeah,
um,
1.12 trillion today.
wow, oh man, they've got about 2% of the market here. So look, that's just one firm. I mean,
Yeah, that's just one of the ETFs. They're the largest,
wow.
but they're there. I mean, GBTC. Give me 1 second. We can pull that up easy enough.
And they're not selling. I mean, they're not. They're
No,
continuing to buy.
outflows have not been bad. Last week we saw some outflows. We brought it up here on this show, but it wasn't a tremendous amount. They've got 13 billion. So
So
these things.
there's $33 billion right there. It takes 1,000 million to make a billion and 1,000 billion to make a trillion. So um, you've got 3.5% of the Bitcoin market just in two firms. Wow, that's a lot, and
Isn't it
that's just in
amazing?
one country.
Right, and not yeah. That's just two of the. That's two of them. There's 12. We could just keep going through and go to Van Eck and then hit Pro
Right.
Shears and then everybody else. But they're one of the.
Whereas 4 years ago, the world and SEC hated ETFs and they didn't want them since the beginning, and now here we are. a year, roughly what, a year later now that we've had ETFs approved, and it's already 3% of the market. That's crazy. So
And
wow,
we don't see the 20% swings in a day anymore. You know what I
right.
mean? Is it did what it was supposed to do. It took the excess leverage out. It brought the institutions in. So if you play with that excess leverage, you're gonna get killed because they're watching it and they're gonna clean your pockets because again they've got more money than you do. They can outweight you.
Yeah,
Um,
but not your keys, not your coins, right?
that's right. That's the key that I always say. You know, that's the bottom line is if something goes wrong and BlackRock and those guys decide to go screwy or something goes wrong and they get hacked, it's not your keys, right? So that's the difference. Um, but with that being said, again, they're using what is interesting is to see, for all the fervor that the SEC had and, my buddy Gary Gensler there, railing against the Coinbases and the Krakens. Do you know who they've allowed to be the custodial for these ETFs? Coinbase and Kraken. So
Right.
it just makes my head explode that a publicly traded company in Coinbase that had to file all the SEC
Hey,
disclosures and everything else, and then you come back and you say, "Hey, we didn't tell you anything was wrong when you did it, but now that you did it, here's what you did wrong."
right.
That just
And
amazes
but
me.
for me, I've always Coinbase has been where it's at. I didn't want to move it. I didn't move it off to the other DGen basis, so I was okay with that. What? So look, I think one of the biggest news today is Verizon making a big bid for Frontier in the communication space. I said this on Schwab Network not too long ago that look, the thing that you're going to start to see when you have the cheap money, right? And you have markets not moving, stocks coming down. Guess what's going to happen? Mergers and acquisitions. M&A is going to be hot. I've called it in the airline space. I know that this administration with Lena Khan, who I'm not a big fan of, is causing a lot of havoc there. But the truth of the matter is, M&A is going to be hot here, and we need that, right? We need good players doing good things and buying up companies that aren't doing it because this is the way of the future, right? And I think that look, we need competition, and I'm the first person. I'm Mr. Capitalist himself. What do you think I'm at? But I also believe that there needs to be some rules in place. But when you have companies that like this, Verizon and Frontier, that makes sense, there's a reason why the play is so big. And so Verizon being the Verizon Wireless, being the company that we all know as phones and cellular, is making a big bid into the cable market with Frontier. I think they're pretty good. I think with their fiber is doing what Spectrum did, right? Spectrum
Right.
moving into the mobile business, right? And then Spectrum getting into the home business and then business of the internet. So we'll have two bigger companies. That's great. And then you have AT&T sitting on the sidelines here going, what do we do, right? And so look, these are things that exactly what Warren Buffett tells you, right? When have cash on the sideline, be ready, and these companies did, and merger and acquisitions are big. So I don't think it's the begin. I think it's the beginning of M&A right now, especially if I hesitate a million times to say this word, but I'm going to. The recession is coming. People need to be prepared for it, right? And recessions aren't always bad. They suck. It's bad for people who lose their jobs, and I don't. Yeah, I'm the first person to hate that. And anywhere I don't. I think it's terrible when people just lay real off just for the hell of it. But when you see corporate actions that are happening right now, especially in the case of margins on companies. You're still seeing, we talked about this yesterday, Howard, and it's still happening again today, is all of the union action right now going on with all these strikes. That does affect people. It affects employment, and it affects things like when people are out there, they need food and shelter and water and all those fun things. That's a problem. So yeah, I mean, look, the world's a little bit on the edge right now, and you can see that, but I'm just not scared. I mean, these earnings are coming out really good, and people are slapping down these companies for earnings. It's silly to me. What
Yeah,
about
and then
that?
I have a second question for you. Would it be an unintended consequence of the pushback against dividends and buybacks that we've seen from politicians that will also push companies, okay, I have this money, I've got to spend it without, doing a buyback. So maybe I buy. Does that start a little bit of a frenzy there? Or is just something that came into my head, with you saying that and listening to all of the, my friend Elizabeth Warren and all of her cohorts, talk about big is worse and big is,
That lady is that. I mean, listen,
oh, don't get me
she
started.
does,
That's my
she does
hometown.
not
She
understand that.
represents my hometown. It makes me insane.
Yeah,
I
uh,
yell at everybody when I go home.
without
Um,
getting too political, I mean,
yeah, but
she should
well,
stay out of
and that's
business.
not even to get political. It's just, listen. To me, it's not one side or the other. That tends to be a boomer issue, an age issue. I think that we have too many people trying to make decisions on policies that have to do with tech and new technology that can't probably use their iPhone.
And I've said
That's
it a million times, right? I have been talking about, this 8, 9 years now of AI. I've been talking about. uh, I heard today that the AI boom is over. Oh my goodness gracious! That's like saying the internet's over, right? And back in
yeah.
the 90s, like it's over. It's a big fad. I mean, I remember opening the paper up and saying the internet's a fad. And I'm going, I don't think so. I think it's going to change our lives. Looking at electric vehicles, looking at cars that drive themselves, technology is moving faster than ever before. And when you have companies that are on the front edge of that, that's where I'm looking to. And when people ask me all the time, Steve, what should I be investing in? And I say, look, if you're looking at companies' 10Ks and 10Qs, their quarterlies and annual reports, look at one thing. Look at their R&D budget. If their R&D budget is huge, they're working on something, and that means they really want to build something for the future. And I like that. A good example of that would be Facebook Meta. Look, 3 years ago, I mean, the stock was around $90 a share. That was silly under 100. Today it's over 400. I think it's probably even higher than that. I haven't kept up with Facebook and Meta. I don't own it anymore. But I think that's crazy. Look, and guess what they did? They put out new Oculuses. They're putting out a new reality glasses. There it is. Meta's at $510 a share. That should tell you everything. But mergers and
That's
acquisitions and
that's a
R&D.
great point that you're bringing up there is, that I would say where you see the quiet AI is what I would call it. Is all of a sudden I've noticed on the bottom of Facebook posts they have that when you go to look at the comments where it summarizes basically the comments. So you don't even have to read the 200, things to get through it. It says, "Hey, people are saying this about the post." Though that's the AI that people don't realize. It's the little things in your everyday life that are going to become easier, that are going to get done for you, that you're not going to notice, that you no longer have to go to or you no longer have to access yourself, that's done for you. And then the second part of that is definitely, as autonomous cars. As autonomous driving comes more and more, that's where AI really, those chips, that's what's pushing NVIDIA, that's what's pushing the chips up and up. That doesn't stop. That is not going to go away. It's only going to increase. Even as things, even as the proponents of EV realize that that's not, as you figured out, that pure EV isn't ready yet, and maybe a hybrid is the answer right now. And I just saw Volvo announced yesterday or the day before that their plans to be all EV by 2030. They've removed that. They're going to be 90% though. That's still a high number. Those are cars that are going to have AI built into them. They're going to have these advanced features to function. And that's where this technology is really moving. I do a lot of work, as in the smart city space. Smart cities, out here in Ohio and farmland, they're using it to water crops. The farmers can't, farmers aren't farming like they used to. They're using technology. That's where this AI is that people don't realize. That I watch, an autonomous, plow this guy's 50 acres of land. That you watch, that's where AI is really kicking in. That it's watering, it's checking soils, it's doing all these things that allow for a better harvest and everything. It goes right down the line. We
Yeah,
are
and
about
if you think about that, look at the stock of ADM right now.
yep.
That's a good example of that, right? Another would be ConAgra. These companies aren't joking around. Pull up a monthly chart on ADM. There you go. That tells you everything right there.
Yep.
It's on a pullback and it's still going up. If you look at CAG, another good example of that. Gosh, this world is telling you probably almost there you go, almost exact same chart, right? And if you look at Here's what I'll tell you, especially when you talk about food. Let's look at Dean Foods, DF. That could be one because why? What does Dean Foods do? I mean, they're in the meat business, right? So I'm telling you right now, I like that.
I will say that, being out here, I'm one of those, guys that tries to buy by the cow, not by the steak. And I talk to the ranchers and things and find out what's going on. Like you just said, commodity prices will be interesting because a pump in those commodity prices really hurts those farmers. It really affects them quickly. The amount of feed that goes to feed, our nation's food supply is tremendous.
Try
Um,
look at this one. How about Monsanto? Try Monsanto. So, when you look at these kind of companies and you say, okay, this is what I'm interested in, that to me tells me everything.
Wrong one. What's Monsanto? I'm sorry. What's Monsanto?
It's okay. We'll move on. But I think one thing that you want to look at for me in the future, right now, you're talking about technology. You're looking about all of these different things. You just pulled it up. You beat me to it. It's space. The race to space is.
I knew where you
Um,
were going, buddy. I knew
yeah,
where you're going this
look,
time.
the space is the key, right? And you talk about, and as you all know, I think the race of space has to circle around two people, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. As was moving it from away from NASA itself, the government moving it to us. Look at AST today, and then look at Boeing. The
Yeah.
Starliner, right? And it's two different opposite charts, right? So I'm still looking at the space, and I think it's hot right now, and I think you're going to see a lot of, and one that we've been talking about for a while is LUNR, lunar.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, look at this. I just overlaid Boeing versus
yeah,
ASTS, which is just for those that don't know, ASTS is AST Space Mobile. They are a competitor to Elon Starlink, and they have announced that they're going to launch their first
yeah,
five satellites into space later this month. Um, so and they're just skyrocketing. And like you said, and that's where it is that's the battle. You just brought it up when it came to Verizon, right? They bought Frontier because it brought them fiber optics. I did see a thing on earlier this morning that still only gives them 20% of the U.S. covered by fiber optic. So it's something I took for granted living in D.C. for so many years, is I had access to 17 choices of fiber optic providers, and you never was out without a signal. Out here in Ohio, not quite the same thing. I have one option of spectrum, and people use Starlink. So I'm interested to see
right.
how this ASTS when they launch, because they're launching bigger arrays focused on internet, mostly commercial use of space. And like you said, there's again, when it comes to how many chips do you think it takes to power one of those, the computers on board that, how much AI is required to make decisions so that can make it into space and back and stay in space. That's where AI is going to be. Everybody looks at it and thinks it's robots, like the old Terminator coming down the road. That's not what it is. It's this addition to our lives, bringing technology in. With that being said, did you just see Hawaii breaking news from Bloomberg that they're looking at a 2 month delay on their chips production?
Yeah, Huawei. I mean, everything going on in China has not been a happy campers over there. You're starting to see a lot of the firms, ETFs, pulling money out of China. That's getting more negative daily. I'm not a big fan of that right now. We need to be partners with China. We may not agree with them politically, but when you're a country as big as they are, we don't need to have any more enemies out there right now, and we need to have good trading partners. We need one of the things, key elements out there is molybdenum. I've talked about this many times. It's a key component of televisions. And I don't know about you, but I've got a few in my home. uh, if you know,
My
Honda's
office is
laughing.
about 10 degrees warmer than the rest of my house because I have 17 screens on.
Right, exactly. I looked at an 100-inch this morning to buy down for downstairs. But I think one of the things that we need to keep our eye on right now is the tensions between the countries. Um, Yeah, so to me that makes me very nervous when I see that. And people ask me what makes me nervous is when we don't have good trading partners. That's what bothers me when geopolitical issues start to happen, and that seeps into our trading and getting products. That's a problem, right? And
And we
a
have
good
seen that
example that'll
over
be
the last,
COVID, right?
right? And we've seen it over the last couple of weeks, right? We just had trade numbers come out that trades at almost historically low levels here for the U.S. Trade deficits. So it's definitely we're seeing that play out in the markets as we go. As we get 5 minutes away here, SPY has broken back to positive for the day for the pre-market. Oh, now just I spoke it into non-existence, and then it goes right back down. But QQQ is still about off a quarter point. Big pre-market mover today again was Tesla.
So about a few months ago, I spoke on Schwab about National Grid (NGG). It had taken a big hit back in it looks like back in May, and I called that one out. That has had a 20 some plus percent run in the last few months. Why? We talked about it earlier. It's very simple to me. It's about energy, and it looks like that if Kamala Harris wins, this type of energy, wind and solar, and the new types of power that NGG produces, they're also the largest producer of energy in Florida. Um, they own Duke Power as well, and Florida Power and Light. That's huge, right? And so look at that stock price. That thing has just been like all the way through, and produces a nice dividend as well. So these kind of other companies that I also see Mr. Warren Buffett himself looking at buying companies like these, right? I'm not saying he's going to buy this one. There's a big gap there. That gap will probably get filled here in the next few months. Look,
Just so
that's the is
just so our viewers know, will you explain that gap right there and how what you're talking about?
Yeah, there was a big sell-off there due to earnings, and and then it took a big pump and a hit, and then when it did, I waited for the bottoming out. Now that's a good example, bottoming out, right? Is what we're
Yeah.
seeing in the SPY right now. That's exactly right. But there's a big gap between the two, and the old adage that gaps get filled, meaning that on the right hand side, that stock should go right on up to about that same price where it is, where your lines are at. So that tells me everything. Let's pull it. Let's go back to the old school. Let's go back to the old school SPY, and let's pull it up for a second. And I want to show something as we pull up the charts here. There we go. And I want to, that's what I'm saying right here, Howard, is that you see that little green bar? That's a reverse hammer on the daily chart there, and that tells me that we might have found a bottom here. There is, and I get it, a gap to be filled in the past. But I think we're going to hold off a little bit and push right on up. Um, and I'll tell you exactly why. The amount of cash on the sidelines, money in the money markets, money in cash, are at all-time highs. When I say all-time highs, extreme highs, not even just all-time highs, not even ticking over. It's extreme highs. And when people start to feel better, probably probably mid-September, because I think we front run this September month. Um, I think it's going to take off, and I think we're going to turn around and go right back up, and I think we're going to make all-time highs probably in the next few months going into the holiday season, especially once the elections are over here. So, got about 2 minutes here going into the open Hondo. 1 minute, and should be open, and the cash market, shall we say? Markets are
Absolutely.
open, but cash market. I think what we see in the mornings will probably set the tone for the rest of the day.
Right. We already got jobs, data in that we talked about a little bit earlier. So there is not, to my knowledge, a bunch of any more economic data this week that we get out. I'll be watching crude this morning. We've been back down, on it here, and
We
that will be an interesting one to watch.
just got the USDA numbers for U.S. soybeans. We had exported in 24-25 126,000 tons to China. So we're still trading. They need food. We need their TVs. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean
All right, here we
there's nothing
go.
wrong with that. We are open. No, we're not. 30 seconds ahead of the game. Will be
All right.
interesting to watch if these chip producers can start to pick up any momentum here today. We're still seeing drops across AMD, Nvidia, Intel. Okay. And the market is open. Here we go. Take a look at what's going here.
All right, let's see. I'm looking at Nvidia this morning here. Tick down 40 right here.
See Nvidia already 14 million in volume coming in here. I have the hourly chart. It's still firmly in that descending. I will say Nvidia sort of putting together.
106 on Nvidia, about to burst the upside here.
I do think if it breaks that trend line, it could move. Problem is, it falls below 105 here.
Bitcoin is really trying here. I think we might. It's really trying to break out a little bit.
Bitcoin at 56,695. Now 615.
There we go. 105.70 now.
SPY's moved over a quarter a point to the positive
There you
here.
go. 106 coming up. There's 106 now on Nvidia. The markets are trying.
Trying to push up here.
We need the dollar to slip a bit here. The 10-year continue to push lower here, 3.7345.
VIX at 2063 here, 2070 it looks like.
106.30. Look at that pop in Nvidia. There it goes. See what we said. Just keep the faith here. I think I don't. Yeah, in NVG, I talked about this morning now up 1.8% here on the morning on the open. Ticker O, yeah, 106.40, 106.50 now on the highs of the day now in Nvidia.
Realty Income Corp, you asked me to pull up there, Steve. You want that on the hourly or the daily? I did see that KMG had KBW, excuse me, upgraded 3 of the bigger real estate trusts. I know you've always been a fan of the REITs. Want to talk a little bit about what you like there? I saw
Yeah, I
Starwood,
like I like
KKR.
I like. Look at this Nvidia now 107 now near the highs of the day here, trying to hit the high of the day.
Nvidia,
Looking at
Tesla 2.5 points right now. Apple up a point.
what did I say yesterday? If you want to watch the markets, watch the silver market. There it is. Silver now up 2.4%, 28.93 now an ounce.
Tesla now up over 2.5 points. Apple continuing to pump. What do we got here going on the gainers? As I look at my Quasar market setup here,
There it is.
EAST. What is EAST?
There you go. Highs of the day now 107 now on Nvidia.
Got another micro pumper here that we talked about yesterday with Charlie. Symbol EAST, Eastside Distilling, up 214% today. These things are insane. They're like meme coins with what they're doing. Look at that volume today, 36 million shares. Average volume 1.53 million shares.
Tick getting smacked here now, down about 400 here.
Tesla still rising, up 2.7 now. Tesla trying to run here. Tesla approaching what I would say its next resistance point around 227.58 here. I'd be looking at. See if there's any trouble that starts right there.
Yeah, there we go. Continuing to push higher here. 107.23 now. 107.40 now. Nvidia is pumping now. So there you go. The chips are now pushing here. And yep, silver is still pushing higher, up 2.5%. It's what I've been saying. SMCI down 2.6%. SMCI is still getting hit here. So
Yeah,
maybe some of that money.
they got to get
Yeah.
interesting at some points here, in my opinion. I think you hit this bottom again towards 395. I could be looking at a spot there. Does it play out to a W formation here?
And 107.50 now on Nvidia. I think the Bloomberg made an erroneous error yesterday calling this that the DOJ is investigating them. They are not investigating them. I think they
Tesla
need to
now
make
up 3.17%. Don't fade the Musk. He's making a run here.
Bitcoin also pushing here 56,765 here. So yeah.
Everything catching a bid. With Nvidia's turnaround now, Intel up on the day slightly. So it does look like the chips want to turn. Does look like AMD still struggling, but trying to get back towards about a point down here. We'll point out, we talked a lot about Nordstrom's. They got a bid offer for $23 a share, trading right around that now. So there had been some gaps. That was what I wanted to talk to you about that was kind of funny. It was announced yesterday they have a bid to go private again from the Nordstrom family, and the bid's at $23 a share. And I saw
That's the problem. The problem with Nordstrom is still the same. It's the ownership. The family doesn't want to sell, right? So, okay. It's not going to happen until they want to sell. If you don't know, it's JWN for Nordstrom.
I have it up. Yep.
Yeah. So, look, until that family says, I want to sell, they're not going to sell.
No. The family's trying to buy it, trying to take it back.
Oh, well, then there you go. See, and maybe they should because they haven't been a very good retailer lately. But
I think when the family ran it, it actually knew what it was doing. So
108 now on Nvidia here. We are pumping now 108.09 here. I think the chips. I said this morning, right? That we built a bottom here, and I think I'm not scared. Let's go.
Tech right now, Tesla up at 228.32. This is the resistance it hit the other day. So we're going to see if it can get by where it got by on Tuesday of last week.
Let's see if we can get back to 57,000 there on Bitcoin here. 108.12. Now again on the high, hit the highs of the day again. 108.915 was the high. Look at that, popping again to the highs. This bodes well for the next few days for me. I think the bottom is in.
Bitcoin, what I'd be watching here is as it gets up towards 57,175. What does it do in that range?
108.32 now on Nvidia. 35. We're hitting new highs. Look at that. Here we are. 57,000 coming up on Bitcoin. They're buying.
Tesla almost at 229 here. Just broke through that high I talked about. So we see things breaking through the resistance they couldn't get through earlier in the week. So maybe today it is in a 1 hour, bull market. What we see, because what you and I've seen over this week, right? It's been 1 hour bull markets the last couple of weeks.
Kaboom! 108.60 now. Another high here on Nvidia today.
Yeah,
and there it is.
Tesla both pushing.
Broke through.
Apple pushing the highs of the day also. So you're seeing the big names, the Magnificent Seven, right? So it'll lead in the way here. Look at that Apple.
$109 now coming up. There it is. 109 now on Nvidia. And here we go. 57,100 now on Bitcoin. The buyers have stepped back in. The sellers are done, I think.
Snowflake, another big name, up almost 2% here today. See another one of these micro pumpers here. I'm going to pull up HOTH, which is hot.
Ha Therapeutics,
Look at that pump.
they do it every once in a while. It happens.
Yeah, well, as we talked yesterday with Charlie, these things are being, again, it seems to be the Wall Street bet people, the retail that's sort of pushing these things, these, micro pumpers. They get these ones on low volume, and some of them are repeatable. You've seen it with, I think it was ASST we were looking at yesterday, Charlie
Yeah,
and
but
I.
they better be careful because there's a thing called the SEC out there.
Oh yeah. If you pull up ASST, you can see on the daily chart here how this sucker has been just a pumper on repeated paces. Looks just like crypto back in the day. Pumps from 150 up to 5. Today's is from 135 up to $4. WISA, another one from yesterday. Another another tech name, GTLB, GitLab, up yesterday over 20% on good earnings reports, talking about, again, another AI play out there.
Looks like a little bit of slowdown here, but we are seeing tick flattening out here a little bit, about 70 here.
Bitcoin above 57 here.
Might take maybe take a little bit of a break here, I think, Howard. But here we'll go do this again, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks good.
Spot gold now 25.16 now an ounce here. Keeping our eye clearly on silver, still holding here at 28.94 on the 7/2. There you go, up 2.42%. Bitcoin still at 57,000. That was big buying up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oil's up at 1.1% today, but still below 70.
Tick now 270 now, so could see another run here.
Seeing the 2-year treasuries falling 5.1 basis point here.
Tick now up 300 now. Some serious call buying here on Nvidia right now at the 110 handle here for the 6th, which is tomorrow.
Yeah, I was talking to you about that earlier today. I was watching some, the increase in open interest on a bunch of different things lately. Nvidia for 9.6 $100 puts, 25K came in yesterday. For
Look at
nine
that. Look at
six
the
ninety
Look at the
$96 puts,
volume
another.
right now. Whew, the volume just jumped 21,300. If you don't know, inside the platform, you can input into the widget side. Quasar Markets, we have our options change. It's really, really clean, slick. You can actually see all the options. You can change them right there. Wow.
Here, I'll pull
Yeah.
that right up for you. Hold it 1 second. I have it in my
Yeah, we
right there.
more call buying here coming in. Yeah, look, 108 still on Nvidia. I'd like to see that pump that to 109 again.
See a trade halt here, WHLR. Trade halt at WHLR
There you go.
on the way up. Volatility to the way north. Here's your option chain that Steve's talking about. Is there anyone you want to look at there particular?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at Nvidia clearly, loving that so far. Look at that to me. Look at that one on the expiry date for September of 06 tomorrow. Look at that call buying there at the 110 handle, 22,727.
Yeah, it's insane how much they're doing. Yeah, yesterday we had increases across Nvidia across the board. The other ones I saw for, basically zero DTAs, that I was looking at was ZIM 1850 call, 12K of those came in. Lumen, another $5 call, 10K of those came in. So here's tomorrow's expiry.
Let me put that in perspective there, Howard. This is just one option. Now we know that one option equals 100 shares, right? So if we put in, and right now we're at 23,000, 20, good Lord, 23,100 uh, calls on just one call. Okay, for tomorrow, 23,100 obviously times 100, and you got to multiply that now by the 108.54.
Price.
The price is $251 million on one option. That's what we mean by high. One stock, one option, and one play
Yeah, it's
is a
insane. It's
quarter. It's $250 million. This is what I'm talking about. This is what's affecting the markets right now, and that's why I'm not too concerned about the markets right now. Yeah.
yeah, 23,448 on
Global U.S.
115
S&P Global
put.
Services. Global Services coming in now. PMI number coming in at 55.7 versus 55.2. That's a beat there. We expected 55.1, so a small beat there. On the composite PMI global, we're seeing 54.6. So really good stuff there. Those are pretty good numbers. Should see the market continue to push higher here. We're seeing oil now slipping here, 69.60 now a barrel as we watch the government's 10-year note here now slipping 3.733%.
I did notice,
108.
Steve, you see JetBlue got a nice little pump this morning.
Look, I'm telling you right now, the airline industry is where it's going to be at. The prices are low. People are traveling. Trust me, I just booked another flight to New York. I booked a flight to Tokyo. I know that prices are higher. People are traveling out there. So I disagree. Okay, there you go. Oil is dropping now, $69.50 a barrel. We've called it 20. We just, my God, Howard, just said 23,000 calls. It's now 26. Another 3,000 calls at the 110 handle there, and now you're seeing the 111 handle pushing higher here now on Nvidia's call buying. So obviously this is where the market is, not in the actual cash, because cash is on the sidelines,
Yeah.
right?
Well, so
Wait
Steve,
for
one
that
thing I
money to
wanted
come.
to ask you about when it comes to this is where you have to be careful though, and looking at that, unusual options and talking with Scott Bauer over the years, is that they're not. It's not as simple as looking at one number because you got to look and see
No,
if there's an
sure.
increase. Is there a corollary increase in another strike? Because it could be a butterfly. It could be
Absolutely. He's
So if you
absolutely
could if
right.
you could explain to our viewers a little bit about that, that would be great.
You're absolutely right. If you look at the put side, you're seeing on the 105, which is the largest one at 16,000. That's all, and then you see on the call side at the 110. So they're saying 106 to 110. Obviously, the 106s are getting blown away today. And look at that, the price is pushing higher here on the call side. So the price of that call now is at on the 110s is now, yep, 105. So we're seeing that pushing higher here. Wow. Yep, just pushed there, 136. Whew. So you just made about 28% on your money in less than a few minutes if you're in those
Yeah.
calls.
Yep. That is it. I mean, it doesn't take much to move those options, especially when you go to zero DTA or to 1 day here, and you're taking out that time decay. When
Yeah,
theta
and
doesn't
and
play a difference anymore.
and the volume to open interest right there, you'll see that's pretty. It's not quite 1 to 1. The open interest there is almost 40,000 to 28,000. So um, what's happening here is there's not 1 to 1 yet, but when it gets 1 to 1, that means people are really getting bullish. So on the call side,
Right.
obviously Bitcoin pulling back a little bit here, 56,718 as it slipped down a bit, but I think money is now moving back into the chipsets a little bit.
Well, Tesla now up 4.6% at highs of the day, about to get to 230. Couldn't get 230, hit 229.99 on my screen and bounced down here, but Tesla trying to run away here. I did see some news there.
United Airlines, look at that, up 3.4%. We've just talked about that, right? I mean, that's crazy.
So Tesla's up on plans to launch their full-service driving advanced driver assistance software in China and Europe, pending approval. So again, I mentioned that earlier today. It's the things that you don't realize that AI is going to do, or is so important to it. Look what it's done just to Tesla's price here. The talk of them using their chips and their AI for self-driving has them up 4.71%. And that's not a thinly traded stock. That's one of the most highly traded stocks in the market. So it does show the power of AI
We
there.
we real estate, the one that was just halted here, WHLR has been opened again here.
Let's see what that does.
Oil still slipping here, 69.46 a barrel. Look at that, still falling. Oh, just dropped there, heavy. 69.37 now a barrel. Just dropped 20 cents. Oof.
Man, with the U.S. got to be buying at some point here for their
So the
strategic.
SPR, yep.
Yeah.
Somebody just dumped a bunch of oil in the market there.
I don't know how these people do it though on these micro pumpers. You look at that chart on WHLRP here on a 1 hour chart. How are you trading that?
I don't. I
Yeah,
just
I
don't.
just that's what I'm sitting here
I
just
just
amazed,
don't.
Steve. I'm looking at it as you called that out, and I'm like, how would you even like? I can't even put. I mean, I
I mean,
guess
stocks like that, you got to put limit orders in, and
yeah. Or I mean, maybe bars you can see it a little
but
easier
I don't
now.
touch stuff like this. Yeah.
Yeah, that those are the ones that was a little past my comfort level there. I'm not gonna lie.
We just
Uh,
Bitcoin is still pulling back a bit. Who's dumping here? Looks like every single bar there for the last 15 minutes has been dumping Bitcoin here.
yeah, again, it just seems to be selling after after that initial price jump every morning. We've seen this little bit of a sell off, so I think it tends to be the same people doing it. I will point out the beverage industry looking pretty good today. Brown Forman, some of the ones we've been looking at over the last week, up nicely, up about 0.64%. Napa, which is Duckhorn Wines, up about a quarter of a percent today. Molson up 0.69, which is Tap A. So seeing the beverage industry for some reason getting a little bit of love today. Tell you the ones not getting love is that, and as we were talking about yesterday, and you talked about with these micro pumpers, is do not be late to the game. As you can see, Weiss, the big pumper yesterday, down 16% today. ASST down 10% now today. So you do have to be careful with those micro pumpers, as we talked about. It's a tough game. Those people.
Or don't do it. Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah, well, those, unfortunately, people are. We want to make sure we're just telling them you got to be careful. You got to
yeah,
know your
we
risk
don't.
management. You've got to be, you've got to have all your stuff in place.
And I know
All
this needs to
right.
be told a couple of times, but we don't tell anybody what to buy or sell. We just talk about the
Nope.
markets and what they're doing, what we see. Look, I've got over 33 years of experience doing this. Being professional it is what it is, right? And we want to bring that to Quasar markets and our people to say, hey, look, there's a better way. So 108.20, 108.30. Here we go again on NVIDIA. I think we'll see another pump here. I've said
Copper
that.
up. Copper up today about 1.5%.
Copper, Dr. Copper. Snap, if you don't know, we have Twitter news as well. Snap is now being sued by the New York AG over sextortion of kids are predators. That's SNAP there getting sued by the U.S. government. Joe Kunkel, Mr. Option Hawk himself, says Tesla's buying up 2,000 of the February 320 calls. Whew. Tesla calls are getting, there you go. There's Snap getting smacked here.
Snap gets interesting to me down that 822 level, though.
I don't use it.
I don't either, but I don't think we're the target market. I can tell you that my younger friends, and nieces and nephews and stuff are all over it. I
Well,
can't figure it out.
69.30 now on oil there. Whew, continuing to slip. Yeah, another push here again on Bitcoin. 56,857. I think the selling is done there again. Look,
Tesla trying to get across 230 here. Tesla trying to get
yeah, we
across
just talked
230. There
about
it
it,
is,
right?
230. Boom.
Yeah, we just talked about that. We're seeing February call buying. Joe Kunkel's pushing it out there. 2,000, the February 320 calls there. Gosh almighty. And February $300 calls are big. So Tesla calls. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu says ceasefire deal with Hamas is not close. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu now says ceasefire deal with Hamas is not close. Highs of the day, or getting close to the highs of the day now on Nvidia. There once again pushing here 108.53. The high there was 108.96, about 40 cents off the high. Yeah, we're seeing a pump here now in tick now at 78 here.
Tesla above 230. Seeing another one of these micro pumpers coming through. Lightning in the box holding. LITB trying to move up here. Apple now moving again, up over 1.5, 1.59. Hey, what? Apple's playing nicely on the daily linear regression here. Held, tried to make a move to the middle. Middle rejected it on 2 occasions.
We are seeing some buying here now in the oil market. 69.56 here now. The VIX is dropping here. Look at the VIX dropping. So we should see another push to the upside here.
VIX down about 4.5% today, as Steve just said.
Look
oil
at that.
Oil moving up.
Yep, 10-year now 3.72 on the 10-year. There he goes. Tick now up to 174. If you don't know what the tick is, that means the upticks subtracted by the down ticks. Positive ticks is obviously good for the markets. Negative ticks are good for the shorts. So we want.
Can I see that on TradingView on the chart?
Yeah, just go to tick.ny. Continuing to see a little bit of a push here. About 3 minutes into the 10 o'clock hour here, so getting closer. There it is, 108.90 on Nvidia. I said if you just hold off, let this market pull back a little bit, it'll go again. Here we go.
Yeah, AMD moving up at 140.62 here. Intel 1966. So we are seeing some of the chip makers move to the positive today. The Dow is down about 0.22, so that had been the gainer, right? The outlier the last few days had been the Dow had been able to keep up. So consumer durables, those type of goods getting a little bit of a hit. Tech having a little bit of a better day. NASDAQ now up about 0.65, 0.5% on the QQQ here.
Boom. Oil now, there's a big buyer of oil here coming in. Wow, look at that. There's a big spike of volume there on the oil market. Apple now up 1.77% here. AMD down on the day. So you know if AMD is down and Nvidia is up, something's shaking there here.
AMD, AVGO, and Qualcomm not getting the bids that we're seeing with Nvidia and Intel so far.
I mean, Nvidia is where the chipset is, right? Huawei can't produce it. Nvidia's got it. Nvidia bad news yesterday wasn't true. It's up today. It makes sense to me. 108, 108.92. We about to pump here, about to break the high of the day here in Nvidia. I don't want to talk about one stock, obviously, but today I think it's Nvidia's day. Yeah.
I'm saying it's Tesla's day. We're up 4.72%.
And there it is.
I'm just giving you a hard time there, Steve. You know I have to.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah.
You know, but I would say, you know, in Apple, I think it's the Magnificent Seven are all showing, you know, their strength today. You know, with
another big volume there in oil, another big buyer in oil. Look at the volume in oil right now. Look at that pump. 69.79 now. Two big buyers of oil. Could it be the SPR there? I think you mentioned earlier, Hondo, that it could be the oil markets here. When the government, there you go, 109 now on Nvidia. Now there it is. It's waiting on that number there.
Better up a dollar, you know, 1%, like you said a little earlier. So I do think the big caps are leading the way here. Russell 200 would be the way to look at that the other way, right?
Oh, another huge volume in oil there. Look at that pump. And look at that, the 10-year note now on the lows today, 3.72% there, continuing to slip there. Which so if you see rates coming down, that means that the government does not have to produce high rates there, because people, when they have to raise the rates to get you to buy, they can lower them. So here we go, and we know that we know that Mr. Powell is probably going to lower 109.07. There you go. Wow, 109.36 was the high. Woo!
Yeah, these things are just pumping today. 230.15,
There you
230.25
go.
on Tesla.
High of the
You,
session now on Bitcoin, 57.2.
yep. Tech is catching a bid today. One we've been talking about a lot that's been moving up and still moving up again today after taking a couple of days of hits was Affirmed, buy now, pay later. So again, technology when it comes to fintech
Vic just
catching a
fell out
bid
of bed
here.
there. There you go. ISM numbers now coming in here. We're seeing 53. Forecast there was 51.9. That's for new orders. That's very good. PMI services now coming in at 51.5. Expected 51.4. Previous reading there was 51.4. So a decent number. Oil just exploded to the upside. We've been talking about it now over the $70
And
handle there.
speaking on the oil, I'm just seeing that OPEC Plus just agreed to delay the October oil output increase, which could be leading to this for 2 more months. So
Yep.
that could definitely be giving a little bit of there. What is
You would have
the
caught that bid in oil long before the news came out. Right here, we talked about that. That's what separates us here. 109.52. There you go. Another high of the day there on NVIDIA. Congratulations if you're listening to me on this one.
I'm
And when
not
we
gonna.
talk about the big order was coming in on the 110s for tomorrow. That's
Yeah.
where the big flow was. Here we are, 109.45. Those people that have bought those are killing it right now.
Here we're looking at will Tesla fill this little gap back
It's
from
up
the
521
July
now.
2nd. Tesla looking to fill the gap from July 2nd here. That would bring it up towards $240.
Dollar just exploded, 101.32 now. And Bitcoin now 57,150 there. Whew. A lot of smiling faces today.
Yep, definitely a different take than we've had the last few days as we get, and it's carrying over here into the 10 o'clock hour. So, as you know, we've seen it fade off normally right at this time. So,
All
let's see if
right,
we can
it
hold
is.
this.
And you're right, Howard. It is 10 o'clock. Let's take us home.
Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining Steve and I. As you saw, Steve is here to give you all the insights and to cover everything you need to know about the markets to get your day started. We think we're looking a little green today. Looks like a good day in the markets, especially on the big caps, leading the way. So we will see you at 11:30 with Jeremy Vreeland and Matthew Tuttle. They have their live stream that we will have on here talking about their picks on the market. Those guys have been on fire lately. The boys are bullish bears. And then I'll be back later this afternoon, and hopefully try to get Steve back in the afternoon hour here to talk about I got our little friendly wager here, Steve. I think Tesla finishes up higher than Nvidia on the day, so that's going to be our
I'm not
bet
taking
for
that
beer.
bet. I'm not taking that bet.
Man, I
I
thought
know.
I had you. Well, thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you at 11:30.